Hi and welcome to The Winning Factor. I'm Alan Aitken, and on this show each week I take a look at some upcoming races in Hong Kong and we try to single out an ingredient of the race we might look back on later as having been the path to finding the winner. Well, some big racing again on Sunday at Sha Tin, and the first of the four-year-old classics with the Classic Mile, and that's the first race we're going to take a look at. It's race 9 and our winning factor, the distance. And I think this is a better field lining up for this year's Classic Mile than a couple of the recent editions. I guess time will tell. But for me, the major chances from the top are California Spangle, the likely leader, Packing Victory for Zac Purton, the unbeaten Romantic Warrior from the Danny Shum yard, and the horse he beat last time, David Hayes trained Lucky With You. And that's leaving out some particularly talented horses. So it's a race with a bit of depth. Now, distance for me is not normally a deal breaker as far as a race is concerned. It's not normally the critical aspect of a race because over different distances you get different tempos, different pressure on horses, and horses can surprise you with just what distance they can run when they get a suitable race shape. However, this year's Classic Mile does present a very interesting long-term statistic which is working against California Spangle. I want you to have a look at this graphic, and I'll explain this. In the last 40 years, that is, since 1982, the only horses to have won this race without a race beyond 1,200 metres in the lead-up were Gurnas in 1989 and Helene Mascot in 2008. And the reason for that? Well, both of them were having their first start in Hong Kong. They did have form at 1,400 metres or further overseas, however. Interestingly, Tony Cruz rode the first one of those two and trained the second. Now, apart from those exceptions, the only horses I could find in the last 20 years to even attempt the Classic Mile without a prep run beyond 1,200 metres were Fokine, who ran 9th in 2005, and High Point, who was 5th 2 years later. So we've got California Spangle stepping beyond his first 6 starts over 1,000 metres and 1,200 metres here, straight up to a mile and looking to break some ground. But he is very talented. So let's take a look at his latest offering. And this is race 345. And on January 16, he is in the yellow and red. He's a flash here early in the race, whipping through under Zac Purton to lead and dictate the race. And what you see on the heat map is not an especially fast or slow pace, but it is a consistent, even speed. And when Purton asks him at the 250 metres, he scoots away. He's got the race well in his keeping at the 100 metre mark, and Purton eases him down to a canter late in the piece. And that late ease from Zac Purton made it just that little bit more difficult to compare that race with the race 30 minutes later. And this was the Class 3 1,400 metres, where we saw Romantic Warrior and Lucky With You at the front end at the finish. And let's take a look at that replay now. And Lucky With You, he's in the dark blue and white. He's out quickly, but he lets a few of the quick horses from wide gates go, settles in behind them. And he's just a little bit sharper, you can see, than in the light blue and white Romantic Warrior. And you also notice throughout the race that Lucky With You is cruising, while Moreira just has to ask Romantic Warrior whenever he wants him to creep up and hold some ground. Ultimately, he's able to get up the inside rail ahead of Lucky With You turning into the straight. And on the heat map, you see this is the fastest part of the race. They sprint hard. Lucky With You does not shirk his task, and he runs almost the same final 400 metres on the clock as Romantic Warrior, but really only because Moreira is a little bit kind to his winner too over the final stages. So at the end of a race 200 metres longer than California Spangle's, both of those horses were around about a length faster than California Spangle had been at the end of his. But of course, that easing down by Zac Purton certainly confused the issue. Well, when we take a look at the map for Sunday's race, it really doesn't look like California Spangle has much of an option but to go forward and use his high speed here from the wide draw. This time he's ridden by Matthew Chadwick, with Zac Purton having a prior booking for Packing Victory. And even with a few other speedy horses in the race, I think California Spangle will lead them, and he'll be trying to set a very similar, even, consistent speed to the one that we saw in his replay at 1200 metres. Not doing too much, but just trying to sap the sprint of the horses behind him, while Packing Victory, Lucky With You and Romantic Warrior, they all look to get nice runs trailing him. But for me, the tip in race 9, Romantic Warrior. His winning factor, the distance. As I said, distance not a make or break kind of a factor often, but here we have a situation where he's gone up in distance, his finishing speed has not been diminished by doing that, which it often is with horses, and he's going to be even better suited by the 1600 metres, which could just be a little stretch for the likes of California Spangle and Lucky With You. The other race I want to take a look at is the final race, race 10, where our winning factor is the map. And this is a class 2 on the dirt, fairly uncommon races, more on that in a moment. But although fans will probably give chances to a few others as well, I think the main chances here are Silver Fig from the Tony Millard yard, Red Desert for Joe Moreira and John Size, Manstar from the Jimmy Ting yard, and down at the foot of the weights, When You Believe for Frankie Law. Now, a couple of things about dirt racing in Hong Kong. It's only a fairly small part of the program. In fact, last season, only 88 races for the entire season on the dirt. And it's even less frequent for these kinds of horses in Class 2, fairly high-rated open company kind of horses. Last season, only 9 Class 2s on the dirt, and only 5 of them over 1200 metres. So once you slice the dirt races down by class and distance, not many opportunities for these horses, and we tend to see the usual suspects turning up for them. Along the way, they do run in other races to muddy their form and keep themselves fit, so it can be a little tricky assessing them, even though we do see them turn up in these races together time and time again. Well, let's take a look at 2 such races that have gone around this season, and the first we're going back to October. And this is race 91, and this race includes Silver Fig, very hard to miss, the grey in the blue and green colours, Kerpenny going forward in brown and yellow, and he gets caught wide, Manstar in yellow and white just behind the lead, and Red Desert just behind him, he's in dark blue colours. And Silver Fig, he takes up his usual spot at the rear. There's a good even speed on, but the one who gets out of position of the ones I've mentioned as the race progresses is Red Desert. He gets a little bit of a squeeze early in the race, he loses his place, and by the time they turn into the straight, he already has little advantage on Silver Fig, which certainly you wouldn't normally expect. Kerpenny, he gets to the front ahead of Manstar, but Silver Fig, with that signature swoop late, comes clear over the final stages. So a very solid win for Silver Fig, one of our best dirt sprinters in Hong Kong. But it was on a wet track, so that definitely made a difference to some of the runners there. And we saw quite a few of them line up again in December. This is December 5, race 230. Once again, we saw the usual suspects, including Silver Fig, Manstar, and also a couple of other runners from Sunday's race, Ka Ying Master and Zarsun. And I thought we saw a better version too of Red Desert here. Once again, you see him in those dark colours. He jumps fast from the outside this time, and with a softer early speed, you can see on the heat map there, he stays with the leaders early, although this time he's the one who gets caught wide. Now the tempo this time, quite different, and it's right against Silver Fig. The leaders are slow early, they quicken up from the 800 metres, and he just gets out sprinted this time. Manstar runs his usual honest race, and Red Star, well, he's had the tough run up on the speed, but he is a little bit better here, and just gets tired from his wide run over the final part. So as you can see, they do switch around a little bit. Most of them have had races in between, some on the turf where they're not suited, and we get big changes in the handicaps. For example, Red Desert on Sunday will meet Silver Fig 19 pounds better at the weights than in that first replay that we saw. So a lot of the time it'll come down to position and who gets the right run, and this time I think that it's going to be Red Desert. Let's take a look at the map for Sunday. And much of what plays out on the Sha Tin dirt does depend on the map. And looking at Sunday's race, I expect good speed from When You Believe with the lightweight. He'll likely get some pressure from Kerpenny and possibly even Ying Master from out wide as well. So the pace looks sound, which is critical to When You Believe, who probably only just runs out a good 1200 metres and would prefer to be left alone up front. Not sure that's going to happen. Silver Fig will give away his usual big start, hoping they go quick enough. Manstar, well, he'll probably be in the same position we've seen in those replays. But from gate 2, this time with a slow runner inside him, Red Desert looks like finding the rail, tracking the speed, and getting what I like to refer to as the Goldilocks position. Not too close, not too far back, but just right. So the tip in race 10, Red Desert. His winning factor, the map. These dirt races often work out where it's critical to get to position. It's like real estate, position, position, position. And I think Red Desert will get the right position on Sunday. Well, that's it from the winning factor for this week. Enjoy the big racing on Sunday. We'll see you next time.